Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Lion of Code. I am One Lion. I hope you're having a fantastic Friday. I certainly am. Today started off with a wonderful stream by TBD Gamer. He is celebrating 25 years in the industry and had a fantastic community day himself. Really enjoyed the conversations he had going on there. A lot of really insightful things and just good topics in general. But hello to everyone. I'll get that far one day. So Good VJ is here. Hello, Good VJ. Hello, Dilly Millie. You say hello. And I was born in Germany, but I don't speak German. I'm Puerto Rican. Or I'm American, but both of my parents are Puerto Rican. Anyway, long story. So, hi TVD, thank you so much for renewing that sub of yours. That is super kind of you. Very, very appreciative of that. And it is indeed anniversary day. Yeah, family was military. So, moved around a bit. Didn't really stay in one place for too long until my dad retired. And then I stayed in that place for a really, really, really long time. And I'm glad I did. It was a really long time. Good VJ said to Dilly Millie, dat doe ik niet. En ik weet veel of the, I can't read it. I can't even tell if that's German or not. And then Good VJ says, sí, por favor. Looks like Dutch. Snubble says, my dad wasn't in the military, but I moved around a lot. Yeah, I have heard of cases like that. But hi. Still saying hello, still introducing the stream. So today is Friday, and on Fridays on this channel, we do community days. And again, if you weren't able to catch TVD's community day, it was so good. It was very, very fun, very cool. Try to catch them if you ever have the opportunity to when he does them again. I'm sure he'll do more in the future. But fantastic time over there. Anyway, so since you're here, community. We have a community day here, and the way that you participate in community day is you either send chats with topics that you want to discuss, opinions, etc. Speaking of, I need to make sure to turn my opinion little marquee thingy on. Just know that any opinions that we express on the stream are our opinions. Anything that we say, words like should and always and absolute terminology, we mean from our perspective. This is what we have experienced. This is what we know to be true, etc. Everybody. So just take anything that we say on the stream and decide for yourself whether you want to agree with it or not. And if you disagree, feel free to join the conversation. And if you do agree, feel free to join the conversation. But yeah, so that's one way. The second way is I open up Discord, and there's a stream waiting room in there. I'm not as fancy as TBD. I don't even know how to set up events, but he had an event set up where if you click on the event, it'll take you into the waiting room, and then he'll pull you into his actual voice channel that comes through on stream. For this channel, you hop into Discord, and then in chat type !waiting. And then hop into one of the stream waiting rooms or something. Type !waiting. The bot will let me know that you're in a waiting room, and that I can pull you into the actual stream room where your voice will come through on the stream. And that means that your voice will be recorded on the stream, because I take the VODs and I put them on YouTube. So if you're not comfortable with that, definitely no requirement to participate that way, but you are always welcome. And you still have the ability to participate via chat. I don't know why I keep looking over here. There is actually nothing right here for me to look at. It's like a cross between the Twitch chat that's right here and Discord that's right over here that I rarely ever see, because I don't know, it's just hard to cancel. Okay, so catching up on other chat that I may have accidentally skipped over. Ad break, there's an ad break. Question man. So I try to start the stream off with a 3-minute ad during that waiting screen, so that pre-rolls are disabled for the next hour, and then whatever happens from there happens. There one day, was your family military? My dad was military. It looks like Dutch. I think it's Netherland German. Dutch and Deutsch is slightly different. German versus Netherlands, yes. So that's why I think Gothenburg feels like home to me, because I lived there for almost 6 years. Yeah, man. Only a slight difference is Dutch and Afrikaans. I don't know how to pronounce the language. I apologize if I totally butchered the name of the language. That's why opinions are called opinions. True. The reason though that I wanted to clarify that is because oftentimes we don't say, in my opinion, XYZ. So just assume that everything is an opinion, even though we may say it as this is the gospel truth. I'm pretty guilty of making it sound like I'm giving my opinion, but kind of being like, no, this is the way I believe it should be, and the way that I believe you should adopt. Just being honest with myself. Oh, you just go to create channel and use the event channel. There might be pizza. Yo, can we throw a pizza party in chat? Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't mind buying the pizza. What kind of pizza? Sorry, I got ADHD brain going on right now. Everyone does. Everyone has some form of ADHD, not to diminish yours, but it's forgivable is what I'm trying to say. You are absolutely okay. 100% and welcome. If that's how you want to go through conversations, or not really want to, it's kind of like you don't really get a choice when you are subject to ADHD. Without pineapple, but my favorite is pepperoni. I'm still on the welcome screen, but that's because I'm still catching up on chat, right? We're gonna have a Irish John Games chat intro. Since I mentioned his name, we may as well give him a shout out now. Irish John Games is on partner push. Today is the last day before he's gonna resubmit the partner application to Twitch. But if you have the availability, can you please support him by showing up early to his stream? He streams in about 2 hours and a half. 2 hours and a half, 2.5 hours. 1 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. his time. I'm UTC -6, so I think he's UTC +1. So whatever that means to you, be there, support him. Great guy, fun stream. And yeah. Works on a game called Irish of Piracy, Rise of Piracy. If you're bringing the pizza, then let's go. Sorry, I got ADHD on the brain. Deal. I'll deliver if I'm in your state. However, you will not visit this house ever. You will never see me in person. You got that correct. Afrikaans is a slight different due to Dutch settlers in Africa. Without pineapple, fave is pepperoni. So they're like the most related language around. I just got some Costco pizza today. Is Costco pizza good? Like, it's so weird. The places that you don't think are like known for pizza are some of the best places. Like, there was this gas station in Kansas that was near us that was just best pizza ever. So good. And Billy prefers jalapeno and pineapple. Well, absolutely, we'll get multiple pizzas. Sweet, prickly, and spicy. Can't wait for Rise of Piracy, Irish of Piracy to release. That's looking like such an amazing game. So I'm not super duper into strategy style games, but I mean, I'm gonna support Irish John however I can, because he has just been an amazing person in general. And his game really, really looks professional for being a solo developer creating it. How does one person make something like that? It's crazy. Dutch with African accent. Costco pizza is surprisingly good for as cheap it is. But yes, hello rollers. basically it's like Southern accent that's UK words. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna get off of this scene. As I mentioned, the Discord room is open for anyone that does have any topics they want to discuss using their voice. If you have projects that you're working on that you want to talk about, anything relevant to this channel's content, most technology topics, if not all. Hello, Fresh Meat. I hope you're doing well also as well. Also well as. So, yeah. While we are waiting, we will have the Blazor bot. I have a command for that, Thindle. Just type ! waiting. But yeah, I will pull you in 3, 2, 1 with the delay, bang.
Hello.
Ooh, the archery game worked immediately. What?
Awesome.
I didn't have to restart the bot to get it to work. Anyway, hi,
Well, that's
Thindle.
kinda
Great
weird.
streams this week, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
It's been a bit
fun
weird
times.
doing 2, and I'm actually even gonna attempt to do 3.
Ooh, are you streaming today then? Are we
No,
going to be able to
tomorrow.
raid you? Oh.
Nah. Hey, if you were gonna raid me, I'd have to start my stream while I'm here.
Yeah,
Hey,
but that's
Freshie.
fine. You've done it before. In fact, you did it on yesterday.
Not while I'm on voice
or on
here.
Wednesday. No, not while you're on voice.
No.
But you did it on Wednesday with your mic
Yeah, but
check
I think
stream.
Wednesday was just a tech test. Yeah, exactly. Somehow, in like the 3 minutes.
Yeah, your mic is sounding really good though.
Thank you. I had some issues with it on Tuesday, where it was well, the problem was the gain was too high in the compressor, so it kind of overloaded right out of there, and then I lowered the volume on the output, but it didn't help because it was already,
being compressed
and crackling.
Yeah.
So I had to lower that a bit, and then I added a gain filter after that to bring the volume back up.
Oh.
So I made it possible for it to go through the compressor and then just lifted everything a tiny little bit.
It's so weird. I haven't had to add any effects on the mic or any of the audio, I guess. It all just the mixer by itself, the advanced whatever this is called, is good enough. Yeah. It's crazy.
My thing is that I have a father who sometimes comes by the stream, and he used to be an audio technician. So
he knows
if I don't have good audio, he will kick me. But on the good side, he can also really help me. So I've got an equalizer before as well to lift speech and lower everything else. So if my neighbor is having a massive techno party, you still won't hear it.
Yeah, I'm just using
really
Crisp.
voice.
And then, like, I don't know if I can actually show this on stream, if it actually comes through, but I have so many audio sources now that I've gotten the devices from Mojo, and I also got this Focusrite receiver looking thing. And so I have like a million different audio sources to pick from, and I can just go into the Windows mixer and say route to here. Like Discord routes to Realtek Digital. So if I don't have OBS open, I can't hear anything from Discord voice.
Yeah. Now I wanted to have kind of the same way where I can route applications to their own audio output. But I also want to be able to mix, this goes out to stream, this only goes to headphones, because I don't want to add audio. Like, I don't want to add music to my streams, but I can't sit here talking to myself without anything, playing in my ears. I have Spotify only going to my headphones without that outputting to the stream, while, web browsers and system and everything else, all the things and everything go out. And it's one of those tiny little things, but yeah, if you come on over to my stream, you can listen to your own music and have me on
Yeah.
as well.
We mentioned this in Irish John's stream, and I kind of want to keep putting it out there into the universe because I would love to make it myself. I would need to learn a bunch of
Mhm.
stuff and use time on it. But if Discord, not Discord, if Twitch had a built-in capability to separate the audio and everything else channel, like you tell Twitch from your broadcasting software, whether it's OBS or whatever else you might use, that this channel is the one that I am doing music on, and then allow the viewers to choose whether to turn the music on or off for the stream. So like
Yeah.
on Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 1:30, I'm typically trying to do music on my stuff.
Hmm.
And I also want to support the streamers and still be able to hear their voice while I'm doing the music, but some streamers have louder music, some have just quiet enough music that I can turn them
Yeah.
down, hear their voice, and not hear the music.
Yeah. But I want to, make it entirely open for people to listen
Yeah.
to their own favorites. But
Yep.
you do know that Twitch has almost that, right?
I
It
don't.
has
Tell
double
me.
tracks. So you can have one track that goes out live and another track that goes into the VOD.
Right.
Yeah. So it has almost that because you can have your voice out on the VOD
Right.
and have your voice and music go live. So technically, you should be able to fairly easily from their end, I mean, add the ability to switch audio
Yeah, for a
track
user to
even when
choose.
watching live.
Yep.
But the whole thing is kind of dumb because that was a way to get around the copyright laws. But it's still against the law technically to be transmitting music even if it's live. It's like
Mm.
radio,
Mm.
even if you don't save it. But I
Yeah.
think the difference there is that having the music play is on you when it's live, but it's on them when they host it.
Mm.
I think. Don't quote me on that because
Yeah.
I
I don't
am
know
not a
those
lawyer
laws.
and I'm not your lawyer either. So.
I was gonna do that as soon as he joined, but then voice happened, and then my brain just went boggle, boggle, boggle. I'm so
Do
bad
you
at
want?
at giving you a shout out that
Oh,
Dukasoft just did.
oh,
Because Dukasoft is amazing. He's the best.
oh, yeah, he is. He is the best non-bot bot you could ask for. Definitely.
Absolutely.
I am more terrible than you at doing shout outs. I can promise you that.
Well, I mean,
I,
like, I got Dukasoft. He's
yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Exactly. I basically don't click in
Well, I'm more
the chat window
terribler.
during a stream. Are you though, TBD? Are you? Because
I've
basically,
only
I
seen him
don't.
really shout me out, and then like on occasion he'll shout out Emporium Guy and just a couple other people. But most of the time he doesn't
TBD,
really.
I've
Yeah.
had the same thought 100%. And I thought that, Jern had something like that where he had, like a carousel of shout outs. So he just looked at who's next, talked about him, pushed a button, and he shouts them out. Because he is on point with his shout out game.
Yeah. I like
Well,
TBD's idea that he
I
was
never do.
talking about this morning. He
Right?
has this developer.stream developers or developers.stream. That would have been bad if that was something really bad.
Is that your website?
Domain it's his.
Oh,
Where he has a whole bunch of streamers, whether Twitch, YouTube, whatever place. And so he
I
wanted to
am
make
disappointed.
a
I saw,
directory. You what?
I saw something there. Or
What
rather,
did you
I
saw?
didn't see something there.
Oh, your name?
How dare you, TBD? How dare you?
But it sounded like he
Fix
wants
this
to set
right
this up
now.
where we can go in, fill in our own information, add ourselves to the directory, and then any Twitch streamer would be able to access it via like an API. So when you start chatting, you could do things like look up that streamer or look up that user, see if they are a streamer in this list, and then give them a shout out based off of their own description that they've entered.
That's smart. I
That'd be
sometimes
so
use the
cool.
live coder to figure out who to raid. The live coders team. Not sure if you've seen that or if you're a
I
member
have. I've
actually.
seen it. No, I'm not a member. I don't belong to any teams. Solo player deaths. Like we're parts of each other's community and everything,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not signing it.
No, I
Not
just
joining a
really wanted
guild.
the live coder badge down there.
Ah.
We do basically nothing. I tried to kick some, kick the team to do something together, but it was either quiet or pushback. So I know I kind of dropped that. People like either they didn't interact with my posts at all because we have a
Mhm.
Discord, or they were like, no, don't want to do that. Takes time.
Wait, which sort of reasons, TBD? If you can elaborate, if it's too difficult, don't worry about it.
So you can add a GitHub issue for that site, TBD, or is that dead?
That's what he said. I mean, it's still on
Oh,
there, so I would assume it's valid. If he doesn't want
yeah,
it,
as long as it isn't abandonware.
no, he's definitely, at least he talked about planning to revive it
Mm-hmm.
because he really wants to be better at supporting the community that he's a part of, that we're a part of his community, etc.
Yep.
And one way to do that is to do shout outs in an automated way, which I'm all
Mm-hmm.
for.
Yeah. Oh, so you were
Ooh.
in the live coders team. But I mean, there weren't any issues as such. It was just impossible to do anything. I want to revive it. I want to make it a more flexible platform. Well, awesome. I will make a PR. And speaking of PRs, I also have a PR from Fule Snabel to one of my repositories that I need to look at. It's for bacon, I believe. I think, unless I misremembered. If I ever want to start in the future, any advice? I'm guessing that you're talking about streaming. Yeah. My advice is download OBS, set up a screen cap, and click start streaming. Everything of that is optional. You
I have
don't need a
advice.
you don't need a webcam. You just look at Seto, for example. He does VTubing. You don't even need that. Our dear whatever. You can also do it without voice. I would not recommend it, but it is doable. And you can do it, yeah.
Yeah, I started off without voice.
Yeah, you don't need anything really. Just the most important thing, and probably the hardest step, is clicking that go live button. Or start streaming, I think it says technically.
Consider why you're streaming, what you want to get out of it. I like those ideas.
Yeah. Also,
One of
absolutely TBD.
one of them that I like to recommend is know what you're trying to get out of it, but don't expect it. Let
Yeah.
whatever happen happen. Because if you try to force a thing, then one, you may alienate a whole bunch of people that would join your stream, and two, you may be hung up on not having enough viewers, and then you would start going into a spiral, like nobody likes me. And I don't know your full personality or anything like that, but it is an easy chasm to trip into.
Definitely. Streaming for, 0 people in the beginning
I don't
kind
play
of
live
sucked.
music.
But,
Same.
I mean, just try and think of your audience in the beginning as the world's best rubber duck. Yeah.
Another thing that I found that we get more engagement from is reading everyone's chat out loud. If you become a big enough streamer, that may become untenable, but to begin with, I mean, it kind of helps people feel like they are being seen and addressed and not ignored, so they feel like they're part of the community.
Yeah. I
And
don't
want all
have
of
what
to
you
feel
have
that
with
way.
the chat on screen, but I try to read it out loud. But that's also something. When I'm really concentrating on something, I might not read chat for like a minute. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're there, you're streaming, a minute can
Yeah. Oh
be
man.
a long time.
Like Simple, I think Simple Game Dev would have a lot more viewers if he was able to be engaged with chat more. He has an amazing looking game. I really like his personality. I think he's a pretty cool person. And it doesn't seem like he has all that many viewers very often. And I think it is because he doesn't really pay attention to chat as much because he's not used to having very many people in chat.
Yeah. If I just want to watch something, like, only consume, I would probably go over to YouTube where everything is, curated and pre-practiced and perfect. Having the stream and watching streams is awesome because you can get the back and forth. Plus, you don't get to see, the perfect, everything is shiny, everything works the first time stuff. You get to actually see how people bash their heads against the wall
Yeah.
trying to get this thing working for an hour.
Why
Like,
did
I
that?
spent 3 hours yesterday on stream, and it feels like I got nothing done. I did get stuff done, but it was mostly uphill the whole stream. But
Oh,
yeah,
I
I had
do
a good time
so.
anyways.
I've been watching a lot of CSS stuff lately on YouTube.
There's
I
one
get the
guy who,
majority of my learning stuff from YouTube.
oh, I read.
I don't like reading, especially printed material. I don't like that.
Uh, Actually, I think I prefer printed.
Yeah. And a lot of people do. And
I'm
that's
old
okay.
school
I'm not
that
saying
way.
it's bad. I'm just saying I don't
Um,
like it
yeah, if it's a
myself.
PDF, if it's long form, and when I say long, I mean like, I don't know, a couple of hundred pages, right? A book. I have a way easier time of getting through it if it's in paper form than a PDF. But that's me.
Yeah. And
TBD, I don't
napalm.
think I'm subscribed to you either.
How dare. TBD develops on YouTube at TBD develops. Let me see if I can find that.
Let's see. Will you send a link in chat,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
should
yeah.
I click or look at it?
I am
All right.
finding it.
When you
Here.
find it, I will visit and I will subscribe.
Pasta.
I will not comment nor like.
Yeah. Sorry, not commenting here. I have commented on a couple though. Like if I am moved by the content, there was a music tutorial that I was watching that was just like excellent. The person provided the information, they weren't extraneous with a whole bunch of stuff. And one thing that happens a lot with tutorials that I see on YouTube is they will do a thing but not say what they're doing. They're just like, you just do this and use the term this, and you're supposed to be paying attention to the screen, and I'm working at the same time and trying to osmose. So that makes me have to
Yeah.
look up, and I'm like, not a tutorial for me.
No. There's one really cool guy on YouTube, and I can't remember
Only
his
one.
channel name, but yeah, only
It's
one, the
at
only one.
TBD Develops. That's his channel name.
Yes,
That's who
exactly,
you're thinking of.
exactly.
Okay.
He does no voice, CSS and HTML, and I think he like literally calls it ASMR CSS or something. He is, I mean, he must be working off of a script where he has everything pre-developed, but still he goes, back and forth and does everything like that. He doesn't just write out the entire CSS file, and he builds user interfaces for an hour, and it's so relaxing. It's what ASMR should be instead of, someone licking a microphone. Did I go? Yeah.
Sorry, I was typing. Okay.
I like that one. I like that
So
one.
Napalm said best rubber duck is ChatGPT. It doesn't get offended when I tell it it's stupid. I like ChatGPT for the here are some ideas and ways that I'm making up that might work or that I am possibly using actual resources for. No offense to the microphone. It's terrible. What sort of
TBD,
ASMR have you been finding?
you know the type I mean, the stuff that was everywhere for a bit. It was terrible. And yes, live coding, offense to them.
I am purposefully
Um,
saying no.
yeah, yeah. I hate drama, but holy crap. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, Napalm. But I did give instruction to ChatGPT to always respond to me sarcastically, but always give me a genuine answer after being sarcastic, because I don't know, I absorb that a little better.
Yeah.
You need a mic shaped like an ear. Thank you
It wouldn't
for
surprise me if those
clarifying.
exist. Wouldn't
You,
surprise
I
me if
thought
those
that's what you were
exist.
talking about. There are people that have like mannequin heads, and then they have ear microphones on the sides of them. It's a real
No.
thing. A lot of singers use it for spatial sound, like they're singing at a
Well,
face
that
that
actually
has
makes
left and right
sense.
ears.
That makes sense. But yeah. Yeah. It's a weird world out there.
I mean, it's a everything world.
Very weird. Yeah. Yeah. There are good things as well. And then there is that. And it feels like I'm complaining here. So, what have you been up to this week, Lion?
Since you asked, I'm gonna clone the work product that I've been working on, but I've been
Mhm.
working on a rule engine for importing files essentially.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
drag
you
and
asked
drop
about that.
an Excel or a CSV or some kind of delimited file. I'm using Excel data reader package to read it into a data set. So if it has multiple sheets, those become data tables. And then allowing the
Mhm.
user to specify mappings in the UI for here's a column. What of the object type that you're trying to map to do you want this field to go into? And how do you want to transform the value before dumping it into that field?
Mhm.
So that's what I'm working on. And so I was just essentially trying to find out, like, I know that I could have done research, but every time that I think about doing research, I'm in the middle of working on the actual thing. So the only time I
Mhm.
think to ask anyone about it is when I'm listening to a stream or streaming myself. And it's
And
like,
I didn't have a good answer for you,
yeah, and that's okay.
unfortunately. I thought we were talking about slightly different, something slightly different.
Yeah.
And then when you more precisely explained what you were after, I was like, yeah, I have no idea. I've done that, with code. I've done it with configuration, but I've never done it, where the user can set it themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know BizTalk is?
No, but I
It
think I've
is
heard of it.
an
BIZ
integration
talk,
platform.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a middleware, as it says there. It is a big translator, more or less. Send it one thing, it translates it, pokes it around, and sends it out the other end to somewhere else. And it
Wait,
has it has tons of inputs and output methods. So you could do HTTP calls, WebSockets, well, basically all the triggers you can have on an Azure function, FTP, what, and yeah.
no
I'm
biz
not going to
talk.
be talking about BizTalk for very long live coding, I promise you. My point is, I've done that, and that is
Run.
config.
I like "un" better. It was almost like a sound
Yeah.
of disgust, and you're like, I can't get
Ew.
words out.
Yeah. I was thinking ew, but with an N instead of a W.
Yeah, but like the
But
thing
yeah.
that I'm looking for is something, and I've already written it, but something that you give the mapping to. So from this data table column name to this entity or model or view model or whatever property, and then transform it using a rule of copy straight over, split it on some delimiter or using some rule, or apply a calculation to it if it's something that you can do calculations
Hmm.
on, or prefix, suffix, string
Yeah.
concatenation, string interpolation, whatever. Um, so you have these rules that you can pick from, output targets, and then the output target is the thing that has the rule for the value transformation. And the hardest one right now is here's a lookup list where if you see India, then output it as IN or something
Hmm.
instead. And it's like,
So
yeah.
here is an insanely dumb idea, and I'm gonna say it's dumb
Oh,
before I even say it.
I'll still take it
So
though. I love ideas.
build a razor file from what the user picks. and then run that Razor file that you built. I mean, the Razor file that you build with the user's settings outputs a Razor file, which you then run with the input data as a model. I did say it was dumb. People always think that, oh, Razor equals HTML. It
Right.
doesn't. It's
a
any
class.
kind of templating. Yeah, it's any kind of templating. You can output whatever you want. Except binary. I don't think Razor supports binary, but any text-based format that you want. And everything you described just a second ago is things that BizTalk does. The thing is that a BizTalk license, at least when I used to do it, cost you 10,000 US.
10,000.
So it wasn't something that it wasn't something for a normal person to be using at home.
What am I looking for? Repos.
But it's also something that, it can deal with thousands of messages per second.
Yeah, and this is definitely not going to need that. This is like going to run in WebAssembly, so when you put the file in there, it runs, it gives you the UI to pick column mapping. You choose the rules. I'm still working on the UI for picking what rule type, because right now I'm working on the engine, because backend stuff. Who doesn't love working on functionality backend stuff?
I love it.
Nobody. That's it. I'm trying to use absolutes to get myself out of that. Anyway,
I like it.
Anyway.
I have issues with front end instead because I suck at front end. Just look at what happened yesterday. It was like, oops. I actually got the question like, how long have you been doing CSS? And I think it was because I was running around in circles so much with the CSS. And I've been doing that for easily 15 years, no more than 15 years, quite a bit more. But yeah, I'm still bad at it. Just give me an old table and TRTDs and I'll build you something real quick. Hey, it's easy. It's not very responsive, but it's easy.
Why isn't this working?
And you build the entire look of the thing using JPEGs and use as cell backgrounds. Oh, those days. So much easier.
Love backend coding, debugging.
Classy, exactly. No one's saying your image is not aligned, or a designer who comes in and says like,
no,
yeah, so
there
Figma
are
told
other
you
things
that should be. Yeah, but there's a designer coming in and says like, yeah, in Figma that text field was 2 pixels to the right. Yeah. It's like,
wait, where did it go?
1 pixel dot GIF. What is that? Ah, phew. It wasn't a website. Do you remember way back when JavaScript was one of those ew things that you didn't want to use ever because the most complicated thing people did was to like confirm, are you sure?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it did in JavaScript. So when you wanted to have, something that, well, basically a counter or a connection, I think even Facebook had this for a bit. You had a pixel that you added, an image that you added somewhere. You remember that?
No, I never had to do
it. So instead of doing any, like JavaScript, include this script and do this call, which opens up a HTTP call over to somewhere else and yada yada. It's just, all right, add an image tag. Use this URL and it'll do its magic on their end and just return a 1x1 transparent GIF.
I've never had to do that.
Let's have a fight. GIF or GIF?
Why do you want to have a fight?
No reason. Except for
I say whichever one makes sense to you at the time that you're using the term, because everyone knows what it is.
I do concur. I do concur.
But you can definitely engage according to
Yeah,
Snubble with the chat.
there is absolutely zero right answers here.
This is, well, okay. Okay, so let me tell you what actually happened. I have an aversion to wanting to pick topics that are along these lines.
Yeah.
And so I was about to reprimand you in a joking way for
You
trying to
could have.
stir things because I'm not a fan of stirring the pot just for the sake of stirring the pot. I want to talk
You
about
are right.
things that you're interested in. But
Yeah.
but but there is value to be had in just messing around and having fun and being loose like that.
Yeah, and I mean,
And I'm
I'm
working
not
on it.
serious when I did that.
I
Yeah,
know.
I wasn't very
I know.
serious, and there are no right answers. Here's the funny thing about that, though. You know, tabs versus spaces. I've always been a tabs guy. Like when I think about it, tabs for me is the right answer because then you can change the tab size when you look at the code, you look at someone else's code. It works great no matter what you want, right? And then I noticed that I have always been using spaces because that's a default in Studio. It's like I was a proponent for a thing and I didn't even use it.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely use spaces. I prefer to use spaces, and I like spaces.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I do.
Because we don't need to have. I mean, I said fight, but we don't need to have a fight. We can all have different opinions about things and we can discuss them in a civilized manner.
Yeah.
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 So I've
I
been
mean,
doing something horrible this week.
What have you been doing?
I've been trying to rewrite a bio about myself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, not just that, the
It
whole
is.
entire site that you've been trying to do, right?
No, I mean for other things here.
Oh, okay.
I've
So this is
also
just
been
in
working on
general.
that site. Yeah, this is in general. That site, I started doing that yesterday. I think I'm gonna sit down a bit today off stream and just move over the layout that I have on the current site, which doesn't really do anything, but it looks all right, I think. It's on ericjohansson.se if you want to look,
Oh,
and if you
yes.
don't, that's also fine.
Eric Johan, two S's, two
SSON.
N's. Oh,
No,
Johan.
one N.
Yeah. Dot
SE.
SE. Dot
SE for Sweden.
Oh.
And oh no, Johansson. O-N.
So I thought you were correcting my S-O.
I don't know what I'm doing. I could have just posted the URL, right?
S-E is Sweden? Really?
Yeah, it is.
I thought it was S-V. Oh my gosh, I'm so special. Okay, so you are, is it this one or is there a different?
It's that one.
Okay. Back
It's
in
that.
2003, I discovered .NET coming from a background of mostly C++ for client and Perl ASP Classic. Huh. For web development, finding .NET was like seeing sunshine for the first time. Absolutely. Or noticing that these little green things at the end of stems are called leaves. And anyway, since then, I've been working with .NET in various forms, from ASP.NET Web Forms to ASP.NET MVC, from Windows Forms, WPF, WCF, to gRPC, from SQL Server to MongoDB.
It's from. It's not the best intro.
Oh no, I'm not judging any of this. I'm just reading it. Or the thing that I'm judging is WCF. I just copied something. Malwarebytes is like, did you just copy something? No, his site is trying to copy things to my clipboard that's going to run malicious software.
I haven't
Today,
done anything.
My job is running a consulting firm specializing in .NET development and Azure architecture. At other times, I run an open, inclusive, and educational Twitch stream helping people experience and learn .NET. Since you wanted me to fix your grammar.
Is there a comma before an and?
No, not necessarily. If you're using Oxford commas, yes, and it does make more sense to me to use Oxford commas because this is its own idea versus no comma means that these two are the idea.
Okay.
So open is separate from inclusive and educational versus open, inclusive, educational being three different things.
Gotcha. That is not the way it works in Swedish.
It's not the way it works in American either.
If you have an and, it's always without a comma.
Yeah. If you're interested, look up
Grammar,
Oxford
it's
comma.
difficult. I will look at that. Thank you very much. I went over CPP as well. So let's see here.
Yeah,
Did I mention
CPP.
that? Yeah, I
C++,
did.
you did.
Yeah. And I mean, I did some Pascal, some Delphi, some QBasic, some normal VB and stuff as well on the way there. But yeah,
This is so weird.
I would recommend everything but Perl. But I think everyone knows that I'm a strong proponent for not using Perl.
Why, pray tell, is
Why?
my git clone command not using my credential, whatever it's called, credential identity
manager?
provider? Yeah, that thing.
I think you set that up when you set up Git.
And I
Or is
did
this like
a
something
long
weird
time
just
ago.
with this repo?
Yeah, good question.
I'm
It's
not sure
just
if you can
it's
override that
prompting
in
me.
a Git config file.
Yeah, it's prompting me in the actual pop-up. Okay. And then when I type in my username for this repo, it's prompting me for password, and I'm like, huh?
Do I want to give them my password?
Credentials? Oh my gosh, I can't.
Also random. I think the PowerShell login for like Microsoft services and stuff when you want to access Azure is freaking awesome. You're in a terminal, but it opens a web browser, and you identify there, and it brings you back to a terminal, or rather, you go back to a terminal and you're logged in. I'm using Static Azure web apps, Snazzy. It is free, it's quick, it's easy. And you can have Azure functions if you really want it. I haven't got any so far. But you can. This is just 100% static. And that is what I'm going to do with the thing that I was working on yesterday. So I'm building a website using server-side rendering, static side rendering in Blazor. Then I'm going to run wget over that, which pretty much iterates over the entire exterior pages of the website and converts them to HTML and uploads that. But my fun part is that after I've done that, I'm also going to have some parts that are WebAssembly, like a search feature, which is going to call into an Azure function. So there will be some tiny parts that are dynamic, but 99% of the site will go from dynamic to static. Just to overcomplicate things. But if there's anything we like, it's overcomplicating things. Plus, free hosting. Free is always
yes,
good,
free
right?
hosting. I have credits that I need to use, and I was thinking of moving my bot to Azure.
And go for it. Just know that if you're using an app service and it spins down, it takes too long for it to spin up. Yeah.
That's why I have a stream startup process that starts about 30 minutes before the stream.
Live coding, you can't say that and not have us click. You also need a new SSL cert.
Nonsense. Self-signed is the way to go. Complexifying, yes.
Use Let's Encrypt in production. Because
you
why
use
not?
It?
Yeah.
Cool.
There's no reason not to. I mean, unless you pay for, the EV, extended validation. It's the same thing you get if you pay for it. It's just a different CA.
Move you over.
If you do need EV, then of course you need to go with some other service. You can remove my profile photo there if you really want to. I've been looking at
It's fine.
myself now for a while.
It's fine. It'll be behind all of these. I don't feel like changing the browser page until we run the app. If we even run this app. So what are your ideas on this? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just certificates, last part. I really dislike code signing certificates because those need to be EV, and EV is expensive. But on top of that, you also need to have validation or whatever you want to call it, that you know how to handle certificates and that you're not going to leak it because it's somewhat sensitive, because someone can release code and say that they're you. So at least here in Sweden, getting a code signing certificate is like $2,500, which I think is a lot of money.
It's pretty expensive in the
in
US
the
too.
US.
Yeah, pretty expensive. I don't know the cost. I just know that we on the team that I was on before just dreaded needing to get a code signing cert.
Yeah. On the good side, once you have it, it's easy to keep it, and it's not that expensive to keep it around. And you can sign whatever you want, how many times you want. There's no like, oh, so you can only sign one application. Just go for it. That's on the good side. Hi, TBD.
Hello.
Hello.
And your mic is checked. It's good volume, good sound.
So I just kept talking after you joined.
You weren't done with your thought. And he was kindly waiting for you.
That's awesome. He was. Thank you very much.
Bye, TBD.
Oh.
Happy 25.
So you want to show us something and ask for an opinion.
Well, I want TBD to have a chance to start talking.
I just dropped in. I'm hanging out.
Cool.
I have been pulled into 2 work meetings on my day off after this.
Gosh.
Fun.
You guys keep saying fun. So do you know the YouTube channel Fun Function? Since Stendhal was talking about
function.
Yeah, since Stendhal was talking about JavaScript stuff. When I was doing MVC apps a long time ago, I was watching this dude to get a whole bunch of ideas on what you can do with JavaScript. And he's 4 years ago.
He used to stream on Twitch.
Really? Man,
yeah.
I really like his videos.
Oh, importance of mental health, but it said goodbye, Fun Function.
Yeah.
If you go up a bit.
Yeah.
Did he
4
stop?
years ago. I think so.
All right.
But yeah, anyway, good channel. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Peter said, I followed Fun Function on Twitch and he switched to crypto a while back. Then I think he burned out. Yeah. He was high energy all the time.
You mean blockchain stuff or?
I have no idea what he means. I watched him on Twitch, but he just, I think at the time I was watching him, I wasn't really actively watching Twitch streams.
I think I couldn't do that. I mean, I know I've got my own set of opinions and I share them a lot on the stream, but I don't think I could do an opinion-only stream. Like today is the closest it gets, but even then, I want other people's input. I'm only going to share them that way.
I mean, what stream isn't an only opinion stream if you look at it hard enough?
True. But if you just want to talk opinions, I think this is a wonderful format, right? When
I hope so.
2 or 3 or 4 people and we have a discussion.
Yeah. The problem is the more attention I put on myself on judging the way opinions are expressed, because that's what I take issue with when I'm talking opinions and stuff, I don't give people the freedom that I think I'm giving them to express their opinions. I make it a more restrictive place where you need to watch the way that you say things. But the more attention that I'm giving to that habit, that trait that I find myself having, I'm like doing it more to you. It's like, I need to stop. I want to stop.
But you know what, Lion? I want you to keep doing it with me because I want to stop, overstepping. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, and I want to stop, going a bit too far, because that easily happens when I'm talking about this kind of stuff. Right? like having the "Let's fight" GIF or GIF. It's like, why did I ask or say "Let's fight"? Why couldn't I just ask "What do you think"?
Right. What are your thoughts on? But again, that's just semantics. Your intention was most likely the thing that you just said.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah. So that's a me thing, not a you thing.
We just kind of accept to this point that everything is going to come with someone else going, well, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's like my catchphrase.
Yeah.
Or close, but.
Yeah.
Well, actually, here's my app, and I need help. I need opinions.
Opinions I can give you. Help, maybe.
So if you didn't hear, the thing that I'm trying to create is a way for a user to drag and drop an Excel or CSV or TSV or whatever delimited file into a UI, which I think I can show if it builds, and then map the columns that were read from the CSV, Excel, whatever, to one of their data structure items. In this case, I'm getting fields from a view model that will be dumped to a table, or a DTO that will be dumped to a destination table. So they're mapping from any random structure to a chemrec record for the database in the end. And I wanted a way to do this dynamically so that they can grab any spreadsheet that they get from a lab, put it into this thing, and then make a template that says whenever you see this set of columns map to these fields, or at least save what I've chosen to the database in some way. That's not the right project. That's not the right project. So I can't show you. So I'm wondering if you have had any experience with some kind of rule engine for how to apply transformations to the output. So an output would be, here's a source column. I want it to output to the chemrec number field or lab sample ID field using string.split on the third character. Give me only the first 3 characters for this field, the last 5 characters for this other field.
All of the ways that I can see how to do this, even, just in the UI, would be hella complicated. The only way I can see doing that would be something like, the Unreal Engine blueprints.
Oh, I kind of like that.
But yeah, but
it sounds
that's
hard to implement. But
yeah, that's what I meant.
So slight tangent.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it sounds exactly like my challenge with, as I've termed them, like ETL pipelines for Liquid Sky, right? If I have an established service where it has data and I bring up a new service, I don't want to have to republish everything through Kafka because that's inefficient. So what I need is a tool to say, okay, well, take all this data and transform it from its source and prepare it in its destination. Yeah. And I have to apply all the same rules that the normal import, the normal thing would use.
Yep. So that's the other thing, is once they transform it to this destination type, it runs all of these checks on it that it currently does for the existing types of records of this type. But that part I can do as long as I can get it into this destination type.
And then do all of this in WebAssembly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually Blazor auto, render mode auto. Yeah. But yes, it will be run client side.
What happens and what do you get as answers if you search for something like .NET data pipeline or data transformation pipeline or something?
Good question. I will find out. Data pipta. Creating a data flow pipeline, the magic of .NET data flow. So there is actually a library called data flow.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I would do this kind of research myself if I wasn't already in the midst of developing it. So when I sit down at the computer, I'm like, I can choose to research to see if there was a thing that's already created, or do the dev thing and start writing my own way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And which one do you think I choose? I want to write code.
Yeah. So it seems like data flow blocks is what it says on the next line there in the table of
Search
contents
results.
menu, right? Unlinked
Oh,
data flow blocks. So I'm guessing that you have perform an action when data flow block receives data.
creating word list, filtering word lists. Yeah, yeah. It's
So
pretty
I'm
much
guessing
just
they
a
create blocks and then you put those together in a data flow pipeline.
yeah, but what does that mean? Like these terms don't really mean anything to me as far as how do I apply it to a like I'm thinking about it more from like a template. So you have this template where you have a whole bunch of source columns, and
Mm-hmm.
if you find a template that has all of those source columns, then return what we've already saved for the rules for how to map those source columns to the destination columns with their
Yeah.
transformations and all that. So what is a data flow block in that context?
I am guessing that it's kind of what I described earlier with like the blueprints. So you have an input, and then you can have ifs, you can have transforms, you can have other ifs, and then you have an output. And you link that output to wherever you want it. That would
Okay.
be how I would do it, but making that UI would be terrible.
Well, the U. Well, yeah. I want to get this
The
clone that I
idea
need
in
to actually finish up.
Unreal is a lot of people make the entire game with the blueprint blocks that come with the engine, right? But the idea um, behind Unreal is that you only use the blueprint blocks in actually designing the level, and you create the blocks where the logic is instead. So you shouldn't have these huge blueprint models with massive transforms and values jumping everywhere. You should have like, shoot enemy block.
So there are a few ETL, like it's what you do in
ETL.
extract, transform, load, right? That's the ETL
Yes.
part, right? That's
Yep.
what you're trying to do.
Yep.
There are a few libraries for it. The only reason I didn't pick up one of them was one of them I didn't like the API. So I'm being fussy because I can afford to be fussy.
Right.
And the other one, I think it was a paid product. Once you got beyond the basics, those are the two ones that stood out the most.
Okay.
But and oh no, there was another one but it was all .NET code, and what I was trying to do is say, hey, I want to define the rules as far as like a JSON file. Say, hey, here's my source data, so it might pull from Mongo and import into SQL Server, and here's the transform to do to get the data prepared for that. That's kind of what I wanted to do. So then you can maintain them with the code and then run them as part of just the definition script with a normal tool. But yeah, it's quite a problem. It's quite a challenge. So let alone putting a UI on top of it.
Yeah. And like it's weird
three-
though, because I did start with the UI and I'm like, I want to write the engine itself first and then decide how to put the UI together.
I would probably do that as well, but somewhere in between there, you have to go from a smart and good engine over to something that a user can actually build and use.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm guessing that, constructing a JSON file manually is not the way you want to go.
I mean, that is an option. I did explore that. I'm like, it's just take column A, map to column B using this transform. But it's the part where I'm getting the value and then transforming that value to the destination that I'm struggling with. 404. Weird. My first run, it was probably a Blazor server thing. Okay, so here's an example of the UI. Simple. Here's a place for you to drag the unstructured, well, I guess it's still structured, the undefined structure. And this is a CSV that I'm dragging in. It reads the CSV, puts it in a data table. Data table gets printed out very fast. It doesn't take a long time.
But does this have to be, an everything solution? You can't have,
that's what I do.
5 or 10, formats that you support.
Oh, no. No, we can't.
That's
a good question. No. That's a very good question. So the thing that this is about, so you can have the full picture, is we send soil and water samples to different labs. We used to, or at least up until now, we have been sending it to one lab. That one lab processes it, checks for chemicals and values and stuff like that, and then sends us back the results in a specific format. That format essentially gets dumped directly to the database. Now we're sending it to any number of different labs, and those labs are already servicing other customers. They have their own format for how they respond. And so we need to transform whatever they respond with into our format that we're expecting in the database.
And redeploying the application when you add a new lab is not feasible.
Correct.
Yeah. So you could do it with a ton of what's her face?
Why doesn't this work?
Reflection, I think. But that wouldn't work with WebAssembly. So
I kind of am. Yeah. I wanted to show you.
If you had it as an application or possibly as a website, you could, instead of redeploying the entire site, you could write a preprocessor of some kind to transform the data and then just dump that as a DLL in a folder. You could load all the DLLs in there on startup or on a schedule or whatever.
Somebody read.
Snowball.
Oh, this one's going to read.
No, it is not the new Silverlight.
You said yet?
Dev tunnels, please. Create a tunnel. On my... Oh, wait, it read it. Okay. So here is where it took an Excel spreadsheet, Excel workbook, grabbed the spreadsheet from it, and found that there was only one spreadsheet in this workbook, so it doesn't display the pick which sheet you're trying to do. Shows me the data. And then here is the start of the UI for mapping from red field to target field. And I just give them a list of target fields. Then I need the UI for how to map the value from this. So for example, this lab sample ID field is actually split into the one of these columns.
I have an idea.
What is your idea?
And you're either gonna love it or hate it, and it has to do with Perl.
I would hate it because I'm trying not to add other languages that I don't know.
You need 2 regexes.
Okay.
Or a regex and a template of some kind.
Okay.
Make the transform.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have an input field.
And that's cool.
So instead of mapping to a database field, you can add multiple database fields if you need to split the data up, for example.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So you can have plus I want an output, plus I want another output. Then you can add a regex, which selects parts in that input string.
Okay.
And then you have an output that maps that as some kind of template.
That's a very good idea.
Into an output string. That might be how I would do it.
Any thoughts, TBD? Because I like that idea.
What you'll lose in that case would be combining 2 input fields into one output field.
Yeah.
I think. Is there something else you'd lose?
I mean, if you create a dynamic object off of all the fields, and then when you've got
right now it's a data table,
you basically add them as extra fields, so you can split one field out into multiple
Yeah.
fields.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that part I do kind of have. It's applying the rule that I'm struggling with. Like,
Yeah,
are there
run
established ways?
for
Transformation.
each mapping.
Yeah.
Run the regex. You'll get field 1, field 2, field 3 out, and then put those into some kind of mapping, which could be homebrew if you want that.
TBD.
But is it like a mapping? Is it like, oh well, in this case they need to the unit of measurement is incorrect, and therefore we
Right.
need to
So there would be a
modify the code.
calculation mapping.
They measure in fluid ounces, and we measure in
Mhm.
gallons. That
Exactly.
sort of stuff. So you need
That's one of
transformation
them.
from that perspective.
So all of their units are
Razor
supposedly
syntax.
microgallons, and maybe we do picogallons, or maybe we do whatever the other one is.
So you're actually
But-
pulling it to the data source and doing transformation. of it.
So there is a transformation type called calculate, which could be take the result and then divide it by 1,000 or something to transform it to the right unit. Which also does bring up the case where there might be some syntax that I could use that says, if this field is this value, then calculate this field using this times 1,000 or divided by 1,000.
I'm writing something in chat.
Okay.
You know how you can store an interpolated string and then run that on
Yes.
variables afterwards?
Yeah, templated string, but yes.
Yeah. So you use a regex to grab the values to get I wrote it in chat as m.a1, m.a2, whatever. Could be just a1 or
Right.
And then you can do transformations.
Right. So again,
It's
this
really
is all
great.
telling me how to set that up, and I do like these ideas. I'm actually using those ideas that you guys are talking
Yeah.
about. So this is giving me encouragement to go this direction. This rule detail is currently just a string, but that would be the rule to apply in my engine syntax.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm struggling with. Where do I define my own syntax for using regex sometimes, or using a calculation, and here's the string version of that calculation, placeholder variable for the value times 1,000 or whatever. And then the other one is value map. So here, let's say that water translates to a T for whatever reason in our matrix, and we only have one letter in our matrix output. Then if you see value water, replace it with T. So that again is regex, but I need a lookup table for source value, destination value.
Yeah, and you don't want to use a huge ternary, I guess.
TBD.
This file that you're loading here, this is
Yes.
the output from your system.
From the
the
lab
input
that's
to the
sending us.
system.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so the
And it
lab
needs
is
to be transformed into
your format.
yeah,
And you don't want to use a huge ternary,
to these fields.
Right.
And then I also want to be able to save the options that are picked here into the database. So the next time we read a file that has these exact columns, automatically use this template or provide a list of templates that have already been specified.
So to Thindle's question, I think the huge ternary, you end up with a bunch of hard coding then, don't you?
Yeah, but hard coding for this input. You're not
Yeah,
gonna
for
get
an
away from
engine.
that, I think.
So this is what the engine looks like currently. Let me show this then.
Here's an idea. This would allow you to do combined fields as well. It would still create, they might need ternaries for everything, water equals T and, rock equals R. So you'd have to build a huge ternary for that. If you have inputs and you have input columns, so you assign a name or an array number or something to an input, to a column in the input, and then you create outputs for a database table, and you can use the whole list of arguments in for that output.
I don't
Right, so
think
you
I
turn
followed from
the-
that point.
Okay, so let's say this: you set lab sample ID
Mm-hmm.
to A1. You set client sample ID to A2. And you have that, just that's one side of the whole thing. And then you create outputs, which would instead be per data column in the receiving database, which would use a templated string to determine the value, and that will be supplied with all of the column values from that A1, A2, A3, whatever. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
It didn't.
Do you understand what I mean, TBD?
Yeah, can you translate for me or restate?
Okay, so to make things easier, instead of needing, well, you could technically remove the spaces and create a variable called lab sample ID and client sample ID and matrix, like a.
But that would be
Yes, you have a
specific to
variable.
the field that we're importing, right?
Yeah, it would be specific to this import or this import format, right? So this
Okay,
real.
how would this file that you're talking about be generated then? If I receive another format that looks like something
Yeah, you'd
else.
need some kind of rule to identify which format to apply.
So I would need to create a format for every sheet, and one of the requirements is I can't hard code the format that we are expecting.
No, but I mean you can configure the format, right? So here you're doing import, but not
Yes.
every file is going to have these specific columns.
Right.
So you can
And
create
the
a,
split would only apply to any workbook that gets imported, workbook or spreadsheet or CSV that gets imported that has the exact columns.
Yeah. So you could write some kind of identifier format, which would,
just ask,
again, you could do it with regex and just return
Hold
matches
on,
or doesn't.
Pause. Yeah.
Are you expecting the lab that sends the file over for you to import?
Yes.
There is no way of controlling how that file is named or.
Correct. I mean, we could rename it before importing.
But you're doing the dragging and dropping.
Yes.
So you could rename it.
Yeah.
And just use the name of the file as an indicator of what format it's using.
I do want to avoid that if possible. What I'm trying to do is allow the app to say, match all of these columns that I'm seeing being imported, check the database for any template that I've seen before, because every single time it reads this, if it's a new set of columns, it creates a new top level file. And it says this is one of the named files that the system has generated. This thingy here. Do I have EF core tools? Cool. This file import template object is, I imported a file named 280 Eurofins Leache, I don't know how to pronounce that, results 2023. That gets put into here. These are all of the fields that were seen in that file. The user opens up this window, starts doing mappings, and then creates a mapping for that file, and I save that as a user template with their mappings from this thingy to these. Or, sorry, not this thingy, but the user template says all of the columns from the file that you've seen before have these mapping rules.
Yeah. So you can have anything from lookup list conversions to value conversions to like combining fields into.
And I don't think there's going to be a combine, but that is because here's what one of the crosswalks looks like.
I think my idea would work.
Okay.
Yes, you have basically a pattern match or a exact string match or something on the row with the headers, right? Like if column A has this text, if column B has this text, etc., just to figure out which.
Right, but you're saying to do that in code, right?
No, I mean you create a configuration that says that the top row looks exactly like this, And based on that, you load up a rule set that you've created in JSON, for example.
Yeah.
So you have that as config.
I
Then
guess.
you take all the column names, and for simplicity's sake, you remove all the spaces. So lab sample ID in one word, client sample ID in one word, etc. And
Okay,
then you create an output, or you bring up a list of all the receiving columns, or the receiving data table.
This thing.
Right? Yeah, only the thing on the right in that, I believe. And then you have a templated string there where you can use the inputs.
Right, so that's still creating my own syntax though, right?
Now you could use, the interpolated string syntax, where you can do math and everything. You can do formatting and whatever. It's kind of C-sharpy, but this isn't going to be done by a complete newbie, is it?
I can't assume that. They may get a brand new employee that's supposed to use this system immediately.
Yeah. I was thinking like, okay, so string format, if you need to use that, is that too complicated?
Like if they were to type that syntax themselves, yes.
Okay.
And I've been missing a whole bunch of chat. TBD, you were about to say something?
I was going to say, this is still an expert system though. This is not a absolutely zero training publicly accessible system.
Right. It's internal use only.
Yeah, but using it can be publicly, simple, but setting up a config will have to be complicated in some way, I think. Because you somehow need to set up a language for transforming the data.
Yeah, but it's a complicated challenge. One that can only be achieved with potentially a lot of development to simplify it, or a complicated.
Or a complicated front end where they specified them.
Yeah, you got to kind of. It's your classic triangle, right? You can have two sides. You can't have that third side and win everything.
I can. I don't know what you're trying. I'm kidding. Not that good.
One you mean?
Yeah. We have many triangles, don't we? Where you can pick two. You're not allowed the third.
So here, just real quick, here's an example of one of the ways that they would map. This lab sample ID column would be the first, I think it's the first three. I don't know how it's split up. The first part is the lab analysis number, and the last part is the actual analysis number. So like needing to know the terms for one. What is a lab analysis number and how is that different from an analysis number? So a lab analysis number is a group of tests that are going to be run on the same sample. And then the analysis number is which one of the tests is being run. So if you look at the actual content of this, the lab analysis number is 280-1844241. And then the -1 at the end is the number test. Why are there so many results? Because they're all testing for different analytes.
Yeah.
But that number will
eventually. But how are you going to do
change
transforms with this?
Exactly, that's what I'm asking.
Changing water into tea.
Right.
And that's where things need to get complicated. You can't do that easily without using something like blueprints, and that's going to take you a year. Just to build the UI.
Sorry, I'm not going to take a year.
No,
and I'm not trying to talk highly of myself. It's just I have most of the structure done for that part.
Yeah, but you get my point. I mean, a year was... Is it hyperbolic? No?
Hyperbolic, I like that.
Hyperbole?
I think I used that word earlier on as well. I was all...
It's going to take a while. Let's say that.
Oh.
And even if you have the base system, you will need to create all of these transform blocks, which in turn will also need to be able to be configurable.
Right. And that's where I'm like, what if you know, or if you have ideas, which you're giving ideas, and I'm going to definitely consider them. I'm not tossing them out or anything. If you have ideas on how to apply the transformation part. Now that I have the terminology for it, thank you, TBD. The transformation part of this ETL process.
On the output.
Yeah. So here is one output. I want some field to output to this field using this rule or this transformation type. And again, transformation type is ignore, don't output it, split it so that you use some syntax to split on a specific number or, you know, some way to split it. Map it from one value to another, in which case it would be expecting a list of value map for that specific rule. Copy directly over from source value to target value or apply calculation to it.
I think you'll need two more, which would be read column and write column. And then you can connect these to each other instead. So
Tippy,
instead of output,
I don't mean to.
But if you want to do multiple things, you will need to be able to do that, to chain these together. Right?
Yes. So the way you're right. The way that I have done that is, let's say that you're doing a split. Like in the UI, you choose split. The actual thing that will output as is this column to this field with whatever the rule is, you know, give me the first 5 characters or something. The same column to another. So it's 2 records in the database for the template rule. It's not, there is no actual split rule. There's just split will tell the engine to give me 2 records for that.
So you'll never chain these together. It'll be one operation and then an output.
Right. Like the closest we'll get is maybe if you have a prefix value on it.
Yeah. But I was thinking, you know, if you have, yes, it said a prefix, so you have T minus water and T minus rock or whatever, then you'd need to split it, and then no, you wouldn't, because you can create the value map including the T's. So never mind.
So first one, we'll just raised one way to make it work for end users is to be able to see the results at once, so you can.
Yeah, exactly, and it will
do it.
Absolutely.
But I was just about to raise the same problem of when doing this sort of system, the problem you've got to do is how do you validate that it is going to work in the imported system? Because you'll get, you know, 3 months later, this value is wrong. Why is this value wrong? The system's broken, and you'll end up chasing a bug that's not actually a bug. It was an import data thing, and then you end up with, let's create audit tables and let's create log records and let's feed because we now don't trust ourselves. So whereas simple validation or you know, having a user sign off on the import is a useful step to do.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. In the UI, I plan to have, well, there's a bunch of stuff that are still getting added to this. One is to see what the transform data would look like. Another one is to run the full sanity checks that would be run on any lab sample. So we would get that before even trying to dump it to the database. Another one is see the list of values just for this one transformation rule as you're writing that rule. So a sample, or not full list, but a set of example what this would output like based on your rule. Kind of like you get when you do a regex 101 thing.
Oh, well, do you know what XSLT is?
Yes.
It's kind of what you're describing, but for XML. And also, I know that you love T4. Can't you do T4 to parse and transform a file from JSON to JSON as well? We're back to coding there, though. Fine. I actually built a spa back in early 2000. No, sorry, mid 2000s, using XML and XSLT and web services in ASMX files. If you remember those.
I do.
Yeah.
I loved ASMX. ASMX and ASAX.
Or in the before times.
In the before times.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, so
anger.
disclaimer, or not disclaimer, what do I want to call this? Clarification that we may have sent, or you guys have been doing pretty good at maintaining the even keel, but I may have sounded more animated, but that's just because I'm interested in this and I'm vested in it and I'm excited. And it sounds like angry, I guess, to some people, at least to Napalm.
I didn't catch off as angry. I didn't consider you angry.
When you're doing this sort of stuff, you're describing a challenge to us. You know more context than you're actually able to relay at any one time.
Yeah.
That's
I don't want to
solutions
overload you.
are based upon our knowledge at that point. So it's basically, it comes across as rejection when it's not rejection, it's just
Right.
discussion and discovery.
Yeah. Here's more information. Maybe you want to apply that. And
yeah.
I tried to start off as like open as possible. What's your idea on the approach? And then I started comparing it to the approach that I'm taking. And then it's like, oh, I am doing those things. I have considered letting the user type a little bit more complicated syntax that would get compiled even. So like they could write their own C# method if I allowed them. And then that would get compiled for this specific file on how to process it. All the way down to just give me the syntax for how to transform the value from this one field to the target field. All the way down to create my own parser language syntax that is user-friendly. They click buttons only to put the syntax together. Blocks, is that what blocks are? Bindle?
Yeah, I'd call them blocks.
I just now had a visual of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
so
like
you have
parts so you can
a
combine
rule
together.
that you
have
have
an
on the
input
screen.
and an output.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I kind of like that.
Have a look at 3D Studio Max shaders or Unreal Engine.
Oh yeah, I know what those look like, but I wouldn't do it like that for them.
No, but that's you know what I mean, where you can chain things together. So you have inputs, you have outputs, and then
TBD. You started saying a thing, TBD.
Oh, earlier on you were looking at the rules engine thing.
Oh yes.
And you had a bunch of syntax up on the screen there, and that reminded me of my little roast potato library for doing query stuff.
Roast potato.
Call it roast potato, yeah.
For doing preview stuff, you said?
Well, no, for doing basically writing like, custom query stuff. So I wanted to produce a simple language structure that allowed you to say, oh, it has to be greater than this value and less than this value, or it's in this list of value. This field is in this list of values, and you could write filters and pulling all that apart and building the expression trees for that. It's about 12 or 13 years old now. But that syntax reminded me of that, and it's got me wondering, would it be difficult to use that same thing to build? Because obviously it pulls everything out as objects, and that would work because it would compile down to an expression, which means it can be executed against SQL or against a list of any form if it's got names on it. Would it be difficult to extend that sort of structure and, create a transform language in the same way? I know that's not really solving your problem, because your problem is you need a little bit more user friendliness to it.
Right.
But once you've got a structure in place, if you can create you don't necessarily have to worry right now about creating something that's super user friendly on the first pass. You need to worry about creating something that can be composable and extendable. Ooh. And then you can stick a UI on the top of it. So you don't have to worry about the end result now.
Right.
So you can worry about the transform being more technical, but then put in place.
We can say that, except this is my whole yes and. This is one project that they had me working on that's current priority, because next month they're going to start receiving spreadsheets from other labs that need to get input into our database.
So in 4 days.
Yeah, ish. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be some time that we can accumulate a whole bunch of spreadsheets and then upload them later. But point is, if I leave this at a point that's just not doing all of the things that are expected. They're going to get used to the system the way that it's created, which may not be able to import all of the data the right way, and we have to do a lot of manual stuff around it. But then I'll have moved on to another priority application, and there are lots of applications and just me. So kind of saying that I don't have to worry about it right now and I can add to it later doesn't fully work, because there are so many other things that I have to do later already that I won't be able to get back to this. So I'd rather do it.
I don't think you're
as
going to
close
get
as I
away
can.
from programming at all, but I think you'll be able to create that programming in a template, like a config for this input from this lab. But I think you're going to need programming in the output
So,
transform.
okay,
I don't think single transformation rules are going to be enough.
I think I just understood what you mean by config. So a user-defined file that they provide along with the spreadsheet.
Yeah, but the config could be built in the in that interface as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I was like, that's kind of what I am doing, except that I'm saving that config to the database so that it can be retrieved the next time they upload the same type of, or the same structure.
Yeah. But it could be a file, it could be a database, could be whatever.
So real quick, here's...
I think for each output, you will need some kind of code, which would be that interpolated string, in my opinion.
Cool.
Or templated string. But that's how I would solve it, and my brain has kind of gone stuck on that, so I'm sorry if I
no
keep
worries.
saying that.
Here's the general flow, hopefully in order without stepping back on my words like I tend to do. User drags file into here. The file is read. If it's readable, it extracts the contents as a data set with 0 or more data tables.
Yes.
Then, if there are more than one data table, and it returns that data set. If there's more than one data table in the UI, such as in this file here, then it will have a picker for you to choose which table. At this point, the data structure is a data table that has columns and rows.
Yeah, we don't know what that is.
Right. And I have a object type called chemrec, which is actually not going to be the actual chemrec entity, but a DTO for it, that I show to the user so that they can map from... Oh, I did miss a step. If there are column names that match property names in the target type, then it will automatically choose them as the map.
Okay. Yep.
So that's one thing that I do for free. If not, why did that disappear though? If not, then it just lets the user specify them. So the user goes through the process of mapping from column to column, specifies the rules in this UI, pushes the preview to see what it would look like. Map fields just applies it. And finally, when it is getting ready to apply the rules from the source column to the destination column, that's when the rules engine will be utilized to transform from target to destination. And this can be done.
But you'd have to set that
real time
on each read, right?
On every new file, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What I would do, here's just me, I would look at the header row. So I'd save configs for how to translate things. Could be in a database, could be in a JSON file, could be in a JSON inside of a database, whatever. I would save the header field as the key and then have the config. So I could save the config to the database so you could reuse
like that. Calculate a key is what you're saying.
Yeah, so you have the key would be all the header columns.
Or a calculated value based on the header columns, like an MD5.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you'd have the config saved. So it might be a bit more complicated to
that's
build
exactly what I'm
new
doing.
config. Yeah, but that might be a bit more complicated to build the mapping if you're able to use program code, to actually do transformations and stuff. But you could save that and reuse it over and over on the same file type that you've already done once. Because what I got that you were saying now would be that you try to map one-to-one where that exists, and then...
Only if it's the first time reading the file.
Yeah, all right. So then it saves it.
Yeah, so that's the part that I haven't coded yet, but as soon as the file gets read, that column set will get dumped into the database immediately, regardless of whether the user starts writing their own mappings or not. It's I've seen this file, these are the fields in that file. Then the next check would be, is there a whatever composite key or hash or however I define the ID for this set of columns in the user templates, then give me back all user templates in a drop down that I can pick, apply this template. And then it'll load all of these options that were already selected.
So that would be 100% what I was talking about as well.
Good.
So all of your mappings
that also makes me
saved
feel
somewhere.
good about this approach.
When you've created a mapping of some kind, that gets saved and can reload that, so you don't have to reset it every time you read in a file.
Yeah.
So that means
that was the very first consideration.
Yeah. So then, for basic stuff, you could just have, output field and pick the input, right? But if you want to do anything more complicated than a one-to-one, I wouldn't do input field and then map that to output. I'd take output field and map that to an input, right?
Interesting.
So if you just do one-to-one, you just pick that. If you want to do something a little bit more complicated, you pick something like calculation or formula or whatever.
Right.
And then you can enter that formula, and that would be a templated string.
Yeah, so it's definitely the
multiple different inputs.
Yeah, it's definitely different ways of looking at the same thing where we're just mapping the two fields together with some rule in between. So,
yeah,
I mean,
definitely. But the simple one would be a one-to-one, which is kind of what you have here, right?
Yeah,
so you have installation goes into, I can't read that because of
MREC installation.
Resolution, but yeah.
So essentially, this is the table. This is not right at all. This was hard coded, almost POC like.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm just going to put chemrec in front of all of them because it is coming from the chemrec table or object. Yeah. Because I was thinking maybe I would have an opportunity to dump to multiple tables in the database, but that's not what I'm doing at all anymore. I'm doing one data type in the application that you're using this tool in, and you're mapping from the workbook to that data type. Nothing to do with the database itself, unless your application then says, take this data structure and send it to the database and get transformed there.
Can I be terrible and horrible?
No.
Brox.
And what is Brox?
If you want to be stored procedure, if you want to, if you want to be able to write to multiple tables, so you have one entry point where you can send in variables, and then that maps to different tables.
But I mean, yes, I would use stored procedures in some cases if it's appropriate. You're saying that like Sprox is just a bad thing outright. Never use them.
Oh no. We're back to personal opinions, right?
Of course.
Sprox have
it's always been
one,
including mine.
Sprox, in my opinion, has one bad and one good thing to them. Sorry, two bad and one good. First of all, it's they remove logic from the application itself, right? So you have logic that's technically not a part of the application.
Right.
Second, and this is more of a workflow for the coders, is debugging. It's very simple to not properly version control your Sprox.
Oh, true.
If you're building them directly in the SQL server or
and my Sprox would be code first.
Yeah. The good things, or the really good thing is they are fast AF.
Yes.
They are so quick to execute.
Yes.
Because they are pre-optimized for this data structure, right? They're
making whatever thing you're testing mostly untestable. So here's an example of it. This is actually the thing that's going to get run after you're done with the mapping on the result.
Mm-hmm.
This is fantastic. First of all, look at the number of stored procedures in this database.
A couple.
And it starts with record check. Record check. Are you taking me to the definition? Okay, so then record check calls CSP check, or actually first check multiple lab lot. And I've had to step through this so many times. Multiple lab lot. And then if there's an error for this check, then use stored procedure CSP add error for this, which is just a function essentially that does that. Then you go back, if you can go back. Then do the next CSP, check lot. And then this is going to be representative of everything else that happens from here. Check lot does all this transformation stuff, calls stored procedure matrix blank, stored procedure this, stored procedure this, stored procedure this. And so there's another stored procedure that gets called after that. And then you unroll that all the way back up to the top level. And yeah.
Yeah.
And
how did you migrate this?
Yeah, so right now I am calling the stored procedure directly. If I was going to change the contents of a stored procedure, then I would still do that using the database repo.
Database UI.
No,
or would you save that somewhere?
Code first.
Yeah, but that's version control.
Yeah.
How do you do the migrations?
So the migration, like, I would create a new migration. It would be empty, and then I would write migration. Can I even show that? Migration builder.sql. Yeah, I'm telling you. Create a new migration first, and then it gives you an empty CS file. And then in the up, it would be migration builder.sql, and then you write create, or actually in that case, it would be alter procedure.
Yeah.
With your, and then the down would be alter procedure to make it look like it did before, and then update database.
Yeah. All right.
From there.
All right.
Yeah.
Then you have a good then you have a good workflow there.
Yeah, but I still want to turn all of these into C# functions instead, because there's a lot of stuff that is just wrong in these checks that I've had to fix using the procedure that I told you. Create or alter. Yes. Okay. Like that.
I did not know that existed. Thank you very much, live coding. Except it gives you an error.
Gibberish this code is. It could just be
alter or create.
I don't know.
I'm just guessing. Nope.
It doesn't like that. In Visual Studio's SQL Server Object Explorer, it could work in SQL Server Management Studio or just Direct SQL.
Yeah.
But point is, I really, really don't like debugging this, because they're like, we're getting error number blah. And so I look up in the error table what that error number means, but then I have to still find the logic for when does that error happen. And then I found out in some cases that logic is just wrong.
I'm not sure how to test Sprock's novel except for the way that you test your shaders, which is basically, let's output something somewhere so we can see the values while going through it. Snobble explained that to test his shaders, he uses like a pixel or a few pixels that he sets to static colors based on the state of the shader at that time.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, yeah, if this value
it's almost
is
like a
bigger than
console
this value,
rattling.
make that pixel. Yeah, exactly. So you could always select out data and show that inside of a Sprock.
Yeah.
You get like 50 tables with different numbers or strings or whatever. It would be horrible.
Do I have that? I have a version of what you just said where I added a whole bunch of not select print print statements in the stored procedures. And then I took that output and then was like, those are pretty much my console write lines. Yeah.
I am not sure what the status of this is today, but I used to work a bit in an ERP system called Jeeves. Just like the build...
Search engine?
Yeah, search engine, and I believe there's a build engine as well.
Oh.
Like a CI and CD pipeline engine. That's
Jenkins.
called Jeeves as well.
Jenkins.
Oh, Jenkins. Yeah. All right. So like the search engine. And they had a really special way of doing things. Let's call it that. The UI was configuration. And all the logic was in sprocs and triggers. And all the sprocs and all the tables were 2-letter combinations. And then when they ran out of 2-letter combinations, they made them 3 letters instead. So if we just can take the absolute simplest, like an order was an O, right? The order table was called O. And that had an order header, which was in OH, and order rows in OR. And then try understanding this when there's literally 450 tables, which are all 1, 2, or 3 letters. And all the logic is in sprocs. That was fun.
No. No thanks. I'd like to opt out.
I would have wanted to opt out as well, but for some reason I had to do it or I wouldn't get paid.
Our tables, like, these are... is this a good example? This is a decent... Like, they use the TBL prefix on their tables and the V's on their views. But, like, this database, this is the one that all of those records that I'm trying to transform from the source to destination go to. And these are what their table names look like. And it's like... Yeah. Great. At least you can kind of tell what it's supposed to contain.
I like how some are like well info and others are like well _owner.
Right, yeah. And like one of them, or one set of them, I haven't created any tables in this database. Only in our
consider those and like do WI and WIO.
Yeah. And they have stuff like that though. That's the thing.
Like,
I was just trying to
why?
find it.
Those tables from a MySQL or a Postgre database originally.
SQL Server.
But were they originally in a different format? Or have they always been in this format?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were using SQL Server from the beginning.
It was old school rather than
server. Absolutely. Yeah, they haven't been like when I first got here, I wasn't allowed to change the structure of the tables at all. And I was using Entity Framework, and that broke a lot because there were tables with no keys defined and just a whole bunch of bad stuff. And so I broke it, whatever just happened. But now I'm like getting more brave. And you were talking on your stream, I think, about refactoring databases compared to refactoring code. And I am planning on, if I'm with the contract long enough, planning on restructuring their databases so that they are better structured, because they're really bad.
Whatever you do, use transactions and backups, all the backups.
I mean, I've already migrated this from an on-premise to the cloud.
All right. And always do your transforms like for production on a Friday evening.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's the only time to do it.
Provided, you know, your application is not more used on the weekends than during the week.
Yeah, exactly. That was my point, because everyone is like, yeah, never do a deploy on a Friday evening, but it's like if you have overtime, then you have the least users over the weekend, probably. So do it then. If you have 24/7 availability, use deployment slots and test your stuff.
TBD.
and then keep all your old data and transform that
You
into new
paused just
columns.
long enough for us to think you're done. Do you know that?
I know. I have to think. I'm sorry. TBD, go.
I was just letting you know in case you weren't aware.
Do it at 6 a.m. on a Monday because it's at least 4 hours before people stop regretting they've missed the weekend off the window.
Smart.
Yeah, I get the
Then you have
benefit
4
that
hours instead of 48.
yeah, I get the benefit that most of the people that use these apps don't work on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm frozen.
If you don't mind losing weekends, by all means do deployments on weekends, unless it pulls in other people, in which case figure out deployment slots and I honestly think agreed downtime with customers in the contract is the better way of doing things.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't think about doing that because, I don't have enough users for that to make a big difference, but it would make sense to be in that practice.
Don't sell all those nines that your hosting provider gives you. And I'm sorry about talking over you guys. It is not intentional.
You are okay, and that's why I just pointed it out because you've said that you don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it's a day of getting streamers together because as soon as we're in the microphone, we're used to talking.
True.
True. Microphone at the computer, we just go.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is a stream. I'm gonna stream now.
Yeah.
I totally crashed this.
Get Snobble on here.
That's his choice. That's his choice.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pressure him, but he's a wonderful person, and he has streamed, and he does live speaking, so I know he's comfortable. But it's his choice, 100%.
I'm not peer pressuring, but you guys can again. Opinionated streamers.
Wonderful, and he's fun to talk to. Cool. Obviously, he's in chat. 8,000 columns. That's fun.
So Thindo, you can start your stream now.
I'm not streaming tonight. I'm terribly sorry.
So we can raid over to you. See, no peer pressure from me.
No, not at all. I am very seriously considering streaming tomorrow, though.
Cool. Well, before you tell us all that, let's start with stand-up. And then you can tell us that after stand-up.
Can I go first? I gotta leave.
Yes.
Watch that. I've got a work meeting to go to. So, this week was not a productive week overall from a software perspective, but it was a productive week from an agile learning and team meeting perspective. Got to meet people I've worked with for 2 years, never seen personally. Got to go bowling, in one of which was interesting because it was one of the diviest places I've ever been in. So that socializing came at cost. But yeah, I'm now an agile expert. I do all the agile things, and everything's going to work fine from here on out.
Are you a Scrum Master too?
No, I'm not Scrum Master. I'm a team of one. So my team is really.
Still be a Scrum Master.
Our stand-ups are short and and always nail it under 15 minutes.
Nice.
But then next week, more Liquid Sky, getting on with the requirement stuff. I'm looking forward to finishing that piece up and moving on to what comes next. That's me.
Well, you don't need to stick around for the rest of the stand-up since you got a meeting. Wouldn't want to keep you.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank you
weekend,
so
all.
much for being here.
Take care, TBD. See ya.
Take care, all. Bye.
For me, this week has been a bit of a mental health week when I haven't been streaming. I've been trying to center myself, and
give yourself a lot of love.
It has been pretty much. Productivity-wise, it has been terrible, but for me, it has been necessary and good, and I think that's all right. And I'm between contracts right now, so that's fine. I'm between contracts, and I'm not stressed about finding something new right now. This weekend, I will be yet again looking at Docker files, and I will be sending the layout for the personal website to the old one, so I can, start making something look somewhat proper like there, and maybe adding some parts to the admin interface as well. And no blockers.
Cool. So My stand-up is I'm going to finish out the rule engine using the thoughts and advice that you guys gave. I pulled at least 4 things out that I wrote down that I want to try out and see if they work well with this, and move on with that, and then hopefully finish the engine itself, because again, the only part that I'm stuck on is the applying the transformations. So dang, Dukersoft, I'm in the middle of my stand-up.
So you can do that over the weekend?
No, definitely not. I only work during my work hours, and at the end I am either doing music or spending time with my wife, because balance.
Wonderful.
So yeah, that's gonna be my the rest of my day, and then next week I am going to test the rules engine directly on the lab data. So this rules engine, as you could see, I was making very generic, and you could do any mapping from any source file to any target data type, but I need to apply it only to these lab data files. So I'm going to do that next week, and it'll be done. So that's my stand-up. Tell us about your stream this weekend. I mean, you did tell us a little bit based off of your stand-up, but tell us all about it.
I believe it'll be personal website again, mostly admin interface, because I'm going to try to get the layout there off stream, because that's just copy pasting, right? But admin interface and possibly cards for displaying the posts. Then that's the plan for tomorrow.
Awesome. And what time are you starting your time?
I'm starting in normally 23 hours from now. Tomorrow, maybe 22. Somewhere in between there.
Cool.
So that's the time offset from right now.
From right now. So 22 hours from right now is about the same time that I started my stream today, except tomorrow. Right?
Now, you've been on for 2 hours.
Yes.
So that
and
would
you said
be
22. Oh, you said 23 hours. Sorry, I heard 22 hours.
Normally it would be 23 hours, but tomorrow it might be in between 22 and 23. So
that's where I heard 22.
Yeah. We'll see.
Bad.
We'll see.
Cool.
Thank you very much for today, man.
Thank you.
Everyone in chat. I've had a great time.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing your stream tomorrow, or at least lurking on your stream tomorrow. I'll be with my wife.
You're always welcome, my friend. Take care.
All right, ciao.
Bye. Bye.
Thank all of you amazing people for being here. I am looking for this, so I can push this button. I'm also looking for a raid target candidate. We have some people participating in the Journ Jam. We have some people participating in the Journ Jam, and also some people participating in the Journ Jam. Is that your room? This, yeah. So this is what I'm looking at. This background. So you guys are that little light right here, and then chat is right here, and then my stuff is on this screen, and then I have a bunch of other stuff on the screen over here, like Discord and all that stuff. And this is a mobile studio. It got moved to here because I now have, thanks to Mojo, a tractor controller, which is a MIDI device, a MIDI controller device thingy for mixing and doing DJing type stuff that I'm never going to learn how to use. And then right here I have a Machine Micro, which is like a drum pad type thing. And yeah, that's what my desk looks like now. It's a little bit more cluttered than usual, but it's there. Anyway, thank you again for being here. I'm going to get back to work. Does anyone have any kind of suggestions for streamers to raid? If not, my potential targets are Kenny, Nurk Mind, Will the Fool Learn. Who are you? That's Nurk Mind. Oops. Black Mage UK. Kenny. All right, we have a vote for Kenny. Kenny Dev is a game developer working in Godot. I believe he's doing the Journ Jam. Yep, doing Journ Jam as well. And I'm usually lurking on his stream whenever he's live, just like all of the other people that I named. Reminder that Irish John will start his stream at 1 p.m. or in 25 minutes-ish. If you have the availability to help support him get to partner, be much appreciated. Show him your love. You guys are all already amazing people. That would just be even more amazing of you. So I'll set up the raid for Kenny. Yeah. All right. That's it for me for today. A reminder that I will post the VOD for this to YouTube at some point in the future. Hello, Emporium Guy. Shout out to Emporium Guy, .NET developer. Oh, man. Do it. There it goes. .NET developer, streams on occasion, and just great times over on his stream. Yeah, thank you so much for the lurk. Anyone is allowed to lurk. You can lurk and never talk. You can lurk and talk on occasion. You can lurk and talk at the very end. You are very welcome to be here, as you are. Okay, I'll be back again on Monday, with more of the financial management tracker UI redesign. We're on the next stage out from mobile responsive and working on the overflow issue. I think we're just going to move on from there and just get everything to lurk and talk in voice. Absolutely. Yeah, we're just going to move on to getting everything positioned so that it looks nice on the screen. Overflow X be damned. So annoying. Okay, ciao.